Welcome to Preparing to Transition. My name is Shanna Erwin, and I am putting this on for Promises International. This is for administrators or teachers who are looking for ways to help in the transition into online learning or a new innovation within your school. So the first thing we need to understand is Rogers' diffusion of innovations theory. He has 5 groups of people that he identified that contribute to this innovation process. And those are the innovators. They're 2.5% of the population. They're willing to try new ideas. They're not afraid of failing. They actually look at failure as an opportunity for success. And just so that we're clear, an innovation is anything that a group of people deems as new, even though it may be something that has been used in the past or something that has never been discovered before. It's something that is new at that point in time in which it is being introduced. So they're the ones that help to create those ideas, come up with them, and utilize them. They lead to the early adopters. The early adopters are 12.5% of the population. They're persuaded by the innovators. They are helped with the innovation process once most of the bugs have been worked out, and they're usually in a leadership position, so they'll lead others to follow them, which leads to the early majority. And the early majority is 34% of the population. They jump on board when it is recommended for them by a friend, and they decide when they know it has been proven. So the online platform has already been established. They're the ones that are going to come in and help to build those curriculum pieces, lesson plan pieces, steps for how to use that platform. They help in that process. But the late majority will come in when that process has pretty much been completed. They give into positive peer pressure, so when they know it's been tried and tested and utilized with success, they jump on board and they're willing to use it as well. And then the laggards are the last 16% of the population. So the early majority and the late majority take up 68%, which is majority of any school body, which should be your focus, because if you can get the early and late majority, you pretty much have everybody else as well. The laggards are the group that can be split in half, although it's 16%. They're the ones that are going to be most suspicious of the change. They've tried the methods that they're using. They like what they have. They're used to the structure of the classroom, and so they're hesitant about taking on something new, which will allow them to question what's going on. They want to know that the plan has worked after it's been tried and failed multiple times. They don't want to be put in a position where they're trying to figure anything out. They want it already worked out. If there are too many errors or too many problems in trying to get when the laggards come in, they are likely to jump out quickly. So just to be aware of that. So you want to establish a foundation first. And so it's good to establish your foundation with innovators, early adopters, and early majority. And Mayowski and Rubio Norman have established a spectrum that helps to utilize the strengths of those 3 groups. So the innovators have the relative advantage. They love the research process. They want to be a part of the research process. They want to know how to try new things and watch them fail. But they also are a part of your body, so they know what's the strengths and some of the strengths and weaknesses of some of the other individuals that you'll be working with. So they're good to try new things, but also compare and relate those back to who else you will be working with. The early adopters are going to help in that process because they're not going to be too far along after, but they're going to come in when most of the work in narrowing down to that final platform has been established. They create additional leverage for the early majority and the late majority. They like to be a part of the planning process once the final platform has been established. They are very compatible, and that's the key for them. They're compatible with technology, so they like to use it, they understand it, and they're compatible with their peers, which means they're leaders within the school. They will be the ones to provide the additional information for the early majority to get them on board. The early majorities are the ones that are going to listen to their peers. They're just going to jump in because their peers recommend it and they trust them. They're great at adapting the complexity of the change, which allows the late majority and the laggards to feel comfortable and successful in the process because they're the ones that are coming in and saying, okay, what do we need to do to make this happen? How is this going to work? They're the ones that are going to ask the questions and help get some of those questions answered before the other groups get involved. They understand how to simplify the process by creating training guides and quick action solutions, which is beneficial. So committing to the change are the last two groups. In Matthew 25 and 40, it says, "The king will reply, 'Truly I tell you, whatever you did to one of the least of these brothers or sisters of mine, you did to me.'" Now, it's important not just to remember that scripture, but Jesus in his walk, as I will explain later, never walked alone, and he always went after the poor or the ones that are in need. He always healed the sick. He always did something kind for the least of these, and that's going to be your late majority and your laggards. They're just as important to the school environment as any of the other groups. They need a simple plan. They need something that's easy to follow. They need their questions answered before they get involved. But when they get involved, they're going to stick with it. They're going to be the ones that will carry it out for as long as you want to have it established. And according to NAMI and Mueller, in their article, there are 3 things that should be evaluated to help them transition, and that's course completion. Can the students complete the course? Can they teach to the guidelines that the course requires? Testing, how are they going to meet the standards? Students and teachers, how are teachers going to be able to teach to meet the standards, and are students going to be able to meet the standards based on the curriculum in the environment in which they're in, and accuracy of individual work, especially with younger kids. That one is hard to establish because it does require a lot of parental help into allowing students to utilize some of the technology. But as well, you want them to be able to create an environment that is supportive of their learning, their skills, and also builds that independence which is required in online learning. Providing answer to these questions will give the individuals in the late majority and laggard security and the opportunity to be comfortable in their decision. And like I said, once they make that decision, they're all in. Principal knowledge is important to explain the how and why of implementation of online learning, and that was from Sayin, and he was saying that it is important to find out the hows and whys, because if you get that principal knowledge, then they're comfortable with making that transition. Finally, there is no I in team, or team does not include an I. Teamwork requires a group of more than one individual to accomplish a task. No school can run on one person. It requires teachers. It requires students. It requires leadership. It requires secretarial skills in that they can handle the paperwork. It requires finance committee. All these things, these people and different functions are important. And as we find out, Jesus had somebody around him. Majority of the time, there are very few times in the Bible where you hear or he talks about being by himself. He never worked alone. He always had at least 3 disciples around him, but he had 12 in total, and 11 of which multiplied themselves into more disciples and ministers of the word. And based on what they've done, we have the opportunity to minister and share the gospel to others today. Now, the school personnel allows the schools to function successfully. So if one piece is missing, if somebody says to the hand, "I don't need you," or the foot, "I have no need of you," then there are pieces that are trying to overcompensate, which means something is not functioning to the best of their ability. And that's referenced in 1 Corinthians 12:21. As we've learned through this pandemic, preparation is key. We have found schools that are operating in late majority or laggards that were caught off guard when we jumped into the pandemic. And because of that, they're now trying to put plans in place. And some teachers have left because it was not established what to look for, and they had trouble with that transition to online learning because it went from full-time teaching to all of a sudden everything is online. And not having that plan, not having those questions answered, they decided that teaching was just not the direction to go at this time. And that's what we want to prevent, because a lot of good teachers just need that to know how to create that same confidence that they have in another platform or in another way. So the same stages of adoption that teachers go through, we can expect to see in our students. So your students are going to go through, allow them the innovators to come in and help establish the classroom structure, the classroom roles, help them to allow you to express the ways that they want to learn, things that they use on a daily basis that may benefit the classroom and your teaching process. And then bring in your early adopters and early majority to establish those rules and routines and the patterns. And then allow your late majority and laggards to come in and flow and build that confidence and structure in what you've done, so that there is a long-term plan of innovation that is happening in classrooms all the time. According to Lowe's and Hughes' article on flipped learning classrooms, they point out that preparation is key to accuracy and reliability within students' work. They need to be prepared, and they need to know that that preparation is what's going to keep them on the road to success. So as you go through each and every day, continue to look forward ways and opportunities to transition and help students be innovative, but also be innovative within yourself. Try something new so that you know the process of what it takes for you to get through that, so you know what group you're in and you can help your students transition accordingly as well. Thank you so much for listening to Prepare to Transition. This was with Promises International. Look forward to other trainings in the future.